Providing service that extends beyond, for example, in teaching, that extends beyond teaching math in the classroom. I was heavily involved with committee work and the governance of our local union and how we can find ways in that context, how we can make education better for students. And same thing also, leading the practice now, looking in a bigger spectrum, looking at school trustees and how does school trustees as an elected member from our community, how can we make education better for students? But then it takes a little sidestep, and if you listen to Betty Baxter, who's running from Area 2, who is currently our chair of the board, she'd say that she's running because she wants to help the community through as a school trustee. And I feel that way as well. So when I sort of put my name forward as the mayor, I feel the exact same way. How can I serve the community so that we can make the community better for everyone here? How can I do that? And I want to provide a leadership. So one of my strengths, I feel, is that I'm a team player and I can provide a leadership where I can hear voices and make the opportunity so we can work together to come towards a common goal. That's what I want to be. People have asked me questions, why didn't you just run for council? If you really want to help, why didn't you just run for council? I didn't want to be one of 6. I didn't want to be the one of 6 who may not have been heard. I wanted to be the person to provide that leadership, to hear all 6 voices that represents members of the community, which is you. So that's why I put my name forward as mayor. I want to provide that leadership for us. The second part is it's TBA. Tomorrow, Sue Jackal is hosting and all candidates as well. And I know that in the paper, the Coast Reporter, they're going to be putting in little blurbs where a brief summary of where our platform is. So I can't answer question number 2. I'll be wholehearted about that. I do want to hear those voices, and if anything, what I would hope for and dream for is that our council is diverse. I know on the school board, if you look carefully at our current school board, we are diverse people. Some are moms, some are Aboriginal, some have different sexual preferences, some have young families, some are retired, some are grandparents. You know what? That collective makes a great voice and we make good decisions. Thank you.
I would like to extend that question in general terms to other candidates.
Replacing the incumbent. And if you go to my website, mayormill2014.ca, all one word, you can find a whole long list of reasons that I think Mr. Henderson should be replaced and that I would be more skilled and able to do the job. It is about replacing an incumbent, Christine. It's not simply about leadership or service. The second point I'd like to make is every single member of council represents the entire community. Every member of council has to be able to hear and synthesize and balance what's coming from the community so they can bring those voices to the table, not as a single person a mayor that somehow balances things out. Every councillor needs to balance those voices, and they do that, and they can do a very good job. And I'm looking forward to working with councillors who have integrity, have independence, who will in fact disagree with me when I need to be disagreed with, and who will agree with me when I need to be agreed with, and support the things we need to do. But clearly, because of the politics of the current situation and my urge to change the direction that council has been taken, it's very difficult for me to support those councillors who have been lockstepped in support of Mr. Henderson for the last 3 years. It's a difficult decision, but that's there. I want to work with some of the new faces that are coming onto council, and we've got several in the room today that I think will make a very important contribution. I, like some others, am disappointed that Christine didn't want to serve on council first, because I think she could have done the leadership from below and leadership from within that she probably has the skills for. In terms of some of the returning candidates, and you've had some from various years, I think we all know what the last election was about. We don't want to repeat that kind of dysfunction. We want to have really strong candidates who can work together, listen carefully over the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks, and I think you'll see the patterns come through. There are people with experience on previous councils that I would like to see there. I think that, and there's been a number of those who have been quite supportive of me, and it's going to make my choices very difficult. There are good people
One
to
of the
choose from.
challenges is, even though people give you lots of credit for being the leader, and yes, technically I am what's called the chief executive of the District of Sechelt, but I'm also get 1 vote out of 7. So there are actually 7 people that are voting on every issue. Second thing, when I was elected, I knew Councillor Chris Moore quite well. I knew nobody. I mean, Councillor Seegers is here. We met in events like this, but that was about it. And I knew none of the others. So, you know, the concept, and I have to say, the concept, Mr. Milne, that we are in lockstep is nonsense, and it does a disservice to the hardworking members of this council.
It's a voting pattern. It's pretty
But it is not a voting pattern. It is 5 or 6 or 7 people voting their conscience, doing their homework, and voting in the best interests of Sechelt. And I think that's where I really reject the rhetoric that is going on, the comments that people somehow are acting in anything less than the best of Sechelt is disgraceful and does a disservice to the community. The other comment I picked up that Bruce, you said to Christine that you would like to have seen her on council and that she could have leadership from below. Well, so I guess that puts you as the mayor above. And that's certainly not my view of our council. We work together as a team. There is nobody above or nobody below. Finally, we got elected in 2011. We got elected because there was a strong vote, obviously. People voted presumably their conscience and did their homework to make an informed decision, and they voted for change. We have worked very, very hard over the last 3 years to bring in the change, to improve the efficiencies, and in my closing remarks, I'll say a little bit more about the great state that the District of Sechelt is in at present. All right, I think that's enough. Maureen, I won't make you ring your bell. Thanks.
First of all, my name is Michael Buxt. I'm living on Sunshine Coast for over 20 years. And first, before asking my question, I want to make my remark to John. John, I don't know from where you heard that we, passengers on the ferry, blaming ferry workers for what is this mess we have this ferry. We blame organizers, we blame member of parliament, we blame people like you who could not manage to provide a good ferry transportation for us. Thank you. That's it. No blame. No blame. Now, my question now. Okay, first of all, no, it was not question. First of all, okay, first, we want to be the capital of marijuana, then we want to build airport, then we want to build a seaport, probably I heard it for the... and then it will be bridge and we will Surrey. And then it will be next Surrey in British Columbia. Thank you.
No question.
Okay, I'll pass on that, and I'm going to go to the next question. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll try to
45
be
seconds.
short. I would like to ask each of you, how do you feel about the District of Sechelt having to rush through the rezoning of Lot L? And also, Mr. Henderson, when you talk about jobs, I'd like to know why we've lost over 28 positions at City Hall, and it's just, it blows my mind. I'd like to know more about that. Why have they not been filled?
And some of us think that it's been rushed through without due diligence, but it's going through a process that it's going through. I certainly didn't want to imply that the turnover at the City Hall hasn't been filled. It's not that it's an empty building. There's been a very high turnover of staff over the last 3 years, some on contracts, some retiring, some coming through. and lots of new people coming through that. So I think it's been an issue of turnover, and you have to ask yourself questions about the turnover rather than the lack of positions. If I offended Christine in the reference to leading from below, it was because she'd used the term that her and I are both familiar with in terms of servant leadership. And in fact, we all want to lead from below and from within the community. And I think she understood that not as a slight, but as a reference to the fact, the kind of leadership that she actually understands
This
most.
has been an excellent opportunity to speak for me because many of you may not know me outside of the school realm. So thank you for giving me this chance. And thank you again to Bruce and John for being as candid as you are. I just appreciate that we are looking at 3 diverse candidates and definitely giving the community members of Sechelt a choice, which is excellent. So just to, again, I want to say good governance requires multiple points of view, transparency, and dialogical processes that require trust and respect by all stakeholders. My hope for November 15th is a large voter turnout, which engage citizens, and deliberate decision-making to elect candidates who will act in your best interest and promote local economy, economic wellness, and prosperity for all citizens, such that we're aligned to our community values. So thank you.
The process of coming here and getting here over the last quite a few months has been quite revealing and quite overwhelming, I guess I would say. It was probably a year and a half ago that people started asking me if I knew what was going on at the district and if I was paying much attention. And of course I do pay some attention, but I do my best to support the government of the day whenever we can. And it was probably last spring that there were serious conversations where people were asking me much more seriously, Bruce, can you do anything about what's going on at City Hall? It doesn't seem to reflect our values and the direction we're going. And then in the summer, just around the time of the labor dispute, things got fairly intense. And I have to say that take John's invitation to talk to the parks people. Take John's invitation to talk to people who have been on staff for 15 or 20 or 25 years and ask them if they think the morale is strong and whether they think it's the conducive place to work that they have always thought. I also think the community values haven't been well structured over the last while and not well received, and we do need to restore a sense of what the official community plan has provided us for guidance, and we need to go back to some fairly fundamental values of a community that is not identifying the same economic opportunities as the current council identifies. I don't think that's needed. I think we have a solid economy if we look at our fundamentals, identify what our fundamentals are, which are primarily about people coming here because they want to live or coming here because they want to visit. I totally agree that we can't depend on low-wage, low-income jobs. That's the heart of the affordability issue. And I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk about the new economy that I think is transitioning and which is represented in our community already. I know dozens and dozens of people in their 40s and 50s who have come here because they can live here and want to live here, but they could live anywhere. They're doing software design, they're doing multimedia, they're doing film, they're doing music. Some of them are producers, some of them are performers, and some of them are managers in other forms. But they're doing things in the cultural and creative fields that simply wasn't happening here before. And I think they're as strong an economic force as our retirement population can be. They all want the same thing, a great place to live with a certain quality of life, and they feel it's threatened under the current conditions and under the current direction. So I want to represent a retaining of the quality of life that we have, the sense of the community that we have, and through that build the wealth opportunities, not necessarily jobs, but the wealth opportunities that people will make for themselves to create the world that we want in the future. Thank you.
All right, well, let me start by thanking Sue, wherever you are, and Keith and Maureen for stepping up. There you are. You know, there's one BC mayor who's been very popular. Her name is, and she's a friend of mine, Diane Watts, and she said about economic growth, you've got to have someone at the helm who has a vision and who understands economic development. who understands that the health of a community is making sure that you have a strong economic base. Then residential taxes are lower, you've got the jobs in place, and you've got the activity. I couldn't agree more with her and with the comments of Chief Clarence Louis that I mentioned earlier. You know, when I was elected, I made various commitments 3 years ago, and I'm very, very proud. I believe I've delivered on all of them. The Sechelt Water Resource Center is something that will be a tremendous asset to this community, both for our youth. It's the right thing to do. It's demonstrating leadership for all of Canada. And yes, we are the leaders in Canada, and I think we deserve that. I think that for Sechelt to be seen as a leader in Canada or a leader in the world, that's something that I personally celebrate, and I look forward to doing more of that. I compliment Target Marine, Northern Divine Caviar. Yes, they are a leader. They are one of the best, if not the best, caviars in the world. I'm proud of that, and I think most people are. Looking ahead, as I said, I am committed to smart growth. That is the way, whether it's increased density, better planning of smaller communities, livability that supports the lifestyles that we all want, that's how we're going to attract people back here. I am so impressed with some of the entrepreneurs, some of the arts and crafts and artists and culture people that do work often from home and make a business of it. But we need more than dozens and dozens. We need hundreds of jobs. And that's not going to come just from that one segment. I've used the word rhetoric, and I guess I want to again repeat this. You know, the commentary that our finances are in disarray does a disservice to a number of people, our hardworking staff, the auditors, and all of you who there are financial statements produced. Sechelt is in one of the strongest financial positions in the province. We have reserves that are the envy of most communities in the province. We have a strong budgeting process. We did it earlier this time than we've ever done it. And we were, as a result of that single-minded control of spending, we kept our taxes the same as they were in 2013. No increase in our portion of the taxes. Now, you get a tax bill, there's education, there's SCRD, and there's other taxes added to that, but we have no control over those. So what we can control, we kept flat from 2013 to 2014, and that's something I'm very proud of. Going forward, we're going to continue to do that. It's my business. I'm a chartered accountant. The ability and the need to maintain strong controls and manage our growth, manage our spending is absolutely fundamental to me. So, looking forward, as I say, we've got to embrace smart growth. We've got to focus on how do we build a diverse economy, how do we build a culturally exciting and even more exciting community than we have now. You can count on me to deliver on that. By attracting a whole array of different companies, different cultures, and different industries to the coast. So, in conclusion, it's really been my honor to be your mayor for the last 3 years. Christine talks about service, public service, and it is one of the highest callings, and I'm honored to have been able to be your mayor. I've made mistakes, for sure I've made mistakes, and I've learned from them. I chose to move to Sechelt with my wife Leslie. We bought property in the late 90s, and we chose to come here because of the quality of life. I am going to protect that with every fiber of my being, because that's what's attracting everybody else. So while we're going to grow, while we must grow, we have to do it, and I will deliver on doing it without impacting the quality of life. So we live in paradise, and thank you for ringing the bell, Maureen. And thank you everyone for being here today.
Thank you. We're within 2 minutes of our timing, so it's not too bad. I would like to thank the candidates in particular for putting yourself forward into as candidates, for your public engagement today, for addressing the questions honestly and thoroughly. Thank you.